It's Zach Eady with Purdue men's basketball, and you're watching Boilers in the Stands.
Welcome back to Boilers in the Stands following Purdue's victory in Maui, a 78-75 win over Marquette in the final, a game that came down to the end. Purdue had a big lead and they lost it. I am your host, Joe Jackson, and we are joined today by special guest Ben Kolodzinski.
Yeah, you got it. That's close.
There we go. I was worried about that in my head.
No, it's all good. It's all good. Nice to see you, Joe. It's been a long time.
Yeah, appreciate you filling in for Braggs and that today. Obviously, Purdue comes off. They beat conservatively three of the top 15 teams in the country, back to back. Just, I guess, your instant reactions. We'll just go right there from this game, from this tournament.
So first and foremost, look at the murderer's row that they went through this entire week. It's been incredible. So the number 11 team in the nation, the number 7 team in the nation, the number 4 team in the nation, they were really on a roll here. But what's more impressive to me than just the fact that they won these games is the ways that they won them. They played only one good half in the first game. They really had a slugfest, one of those win dirty, kind of muddy, murky type games in the second game. And then this game was kind of a back and forth affair where they got to actually play their offense a little bit, but also they got up big. They were up by 15 points, but then they lost that lead, and it showed a lot of resiliency for them to come back and be able to finally win at the end there.
Yeah, no, I agree with all that. For me, I think my biggest takeaway from this, and we're going to get into all the players and all the breakdowns in that right after this, but when you look at last year's team, you can kind of pinpoint November and be like, that was the best basketball that Purdue played. That PK 85 was probably the three of the best games, if not their 3 best games on the season. It does not feel like that right now. This team, although they just beat 3 of the top 15 teams in the country in different facets, this is not they still have a couple levels to go. This is not the best Purdue will be this year. And I'm confident in that. And I think that gives me even more excitement than just them winning, is that there's just room for them to grow. There's room for them to grow defensively, offensively, everywhere. And I am excited to see where this team goes. But more than anything right now, just, excited that Purdue wins.
Sure.
I know that there's going to be a lot of there'll be a lot of the March comments on Twitter and stuff like that. But for me right now, that's not something that Purdue can control. All they can do is win games right now. And that's what they've been doing.
Absolutely. And keep this in mind. Purdue is going to be on Monday the number 1 ranked team in the nation. There is no other team in front of Purdue. There is no team in the nation that's been more impressive. Now, we've said that before. The last 3 years, we've been the number 1 team in the nation in November or early December, depending on when it was. And so, we're 3-time national champions in November. Hang a banner, whatever, But the bottom line is, what's different from this team versus last year's team and the year before that team is this team hasn't peaked, like you were saying. This team has a lot of flaws that they're still working on, and it's kind of an embarrassment of riches right now that they have played, in many opinion, kind of poorly in certain circumstances, but they're still beating some of the elite teams in the nation. That is an incredible position to be in. You really need to make sure that Purdue kind of keeps moving forward, keeps filing off those burrs, and make sure that they're a fine-oiled machine. And we're looking at a very, very tough team here. I think they're going to be very, very explosive here once these little intricacies work themselves out.
Yeah, 100%. So there's a lot to get into. We can kind of I don't know if you have anything else right off rip that you want to just mention, but if not, we can kind of get into some of the players and some of the individual breakdowns. But we will bring the stats up here.
Yeah, let's do that. And, one thing that I want to say before we get into the stats here, and I'm sorry about, throwing you a little curveball here, is I think we need to recognize and realize how good Marquette is.
Yeah.
That team is excellent. That team very well could be a Final Four or national championship caliber team. And this was a high-level game, and the basketball game that we just witnessed was an incredible contest. That is every bit of a Final Four game, every bit of an Elite Eight, deep tournament situation, national championship level game. And just to show Purdue that they can do it, that's an excellent situation.
Yeah, 100%. And even Tennessee's another team that very easily could be in the Final Four. Gonzaga, I know that they haven't had a championship per se, but they're always liable just to go on a run.
Sure.
And yeah, this team won in probably more or less 3 different ways.
Mm-hmm.
You had the first game that was just a dominant second half from you got a lot of contributions. Second game was what it was. I don't know if it was basketball or what, but
it's a professional wrestling match.
Yeah, exactly. But super physical, lots of free throws, just a super long game. And then you have today where it's Zach Edey's the best player in the country and it's not close. And just the way that he dominates, I know it's our running joke on here is that we just don't talk about Zach a lot because it's what is there to say other than, hey, he's really good at basketball. But just we'll get into the stats. 28 points, 15 rebounds, 2 blocks, a steal. He did have 5 turnovers. 2 of them, I think 2 or 3 were definitely on him. 2 of them, I don't know if they were necessarily him. But yeah, just dominated the glass. Even that last, I know he missed the free throw to end, but getting that off the way he missed it really bad off the glass. So Marquette couldn't get out and really run. Getting that off of Gillis's. If he doesn't get that, Marquette gets out and runs, and Purdue's transition defense was not good in the second half in general. So just making a little plays. It goes back to Purdue being able to get a shot onto the rim is so critical because of how good Zach Edey is. 7 offensive rebounds. And let's see. Marquette had 5 total. Zach Edey had 7. And yeah, it looks like we were joined by a special guest. He's kind of new to the show. We're trying him out, seeing if maybe he can be a somewhat, we'll bring him on maybe some in Bragg's. Doesn't have a camera. I don't know if he has audio.
Hi, Greg. Technical difficulties there.
We'll let him figure himself out if he needs to. But yeah, this is just a big thing. There are some definite concerns.
Sure.
And I think the defense will be one. Free throws is one. These guys were gassed, I think, all the second half. And pretty much everybody. You saw defensively, I think Jones was fine, but he also had to guard Kolek. So Kolek's going to do what Kolek does. I don't think Spraden was good. Pretty much the rest of the guards, I don't think were necessarily good. You saw Painter did not trust Colvin or Heidi at all in that second half, and just kind of resorted to Lawyer because although he wasn't good defensively, he was giving something offensively. That's an interesting balance that Painter's going to have to strike of offense and defense because he could have gone more if he wanted defense, but went with Lawyer to kind of stick on offense. And yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting thing. I was trying to stall a little bit for Braggs, but he's not there. So,
well, he knows how to get a hold of us if he wants to get in here. So, but I think it's interesting what you have said here is that with how good Lawyer has been on offense the last couple games. Let's be fair here. He struggled a little bit in some other games here, but on occasion he kind of looked a little dicey on that defensive end, right? But what he does is he is a calming force to this offense. Even on the occasion where he doesn't make his shots, he does calm this offense down. He's another outlet. He normally makes decent passes. I know he had a couple turnovers here in this game. He brings a lot of intangibles to this offense that a lot of other players on this team can't.
Yeah, 100%. And that's been my thing with him is as of right now, there are things he just does on the court that Colvin can't do. And defensively, I don't think right now, I don't think Colvin's better defensively. And then maybe people will get on me for that. But then there's, like I said yesterday, yesterday was the Lawyer bounce back game and that was amazing. There's also going to be games where it's not his night and it's going to be Colvin's night or it's going to be Heidi's night. This is a team that has 10 players that Painter in some capacity trusts. I see just a ton of the comments are ripping the rotation and stuff like that. And even though Purdue did win, not saying that there's no,
Right.
you can't call out criticisms and things like that, but Purdue did win still, 78-75, wins
Sure.
Maui, have a week off till Texas Southern on Tuesday, then 2 games of Big Ten play, and then it's the Alabama and Arizona back-to-back Saturdays. So Braggs has tried a couple times to get on here. I don't think it's going to work. We're going to head to the stats.
Perfect.
Purdue wins 78-75. I'll do my best Braggs impression and read through some of these. Edey, like I said, 28 points, 15 rebounds, did have 5 turnovers. Smith, 18 points, 4-6 shooting, 5 rebounds, 5 assists. Lawyer, 10 points, 2 boards, and assist. Jones, 11 points, 1 assist. Team Purdue in general shot 10 of 21 from 3, 7 and 9 in the first half, capped off by the Lance Jones 3, which, hey, Purdue won by 3. Would you look at that?
Right.
Again, only very few bench points. Gillis is the only one with 5. Part of that is just heavy minutes from the starters in general. Marquette goes 5 of 17 from 3. They were very cold in the first half. Marquette 17 assists to only 14 from Purdue. Purdue dominates the glass, 36 rebounds to 23. They have 13 offensive rebounds compared to 5. And that leads to 20 second chance points for Purdue compared to 4 for Marquette. Is there transition? There's not transition points here, but I believe it was like 18-2 Marquette. 11 steals for Marquette, which is why they got a bunch of transition. Oh, there it is. Fast break points, 16-2.
Yeah.
Marquette was able to generate a lot of live steals. So those, I think, are some of the main ones. Kolodzinski goes for 22, 7 and 6 because he's one of the best players in college basketball. Cam Jones goes for 17. Iguodala goes for 16, and I don't think he missed a floater the entire night.
Right.
After turning out all those, does anything kind of stand out to you?
So here's what I noticed. My eye test told me, that Kolek is a tremendous ball player. You could just tell by the way he moves and the way he kind of is graceful and coordinated out there on the floor. And I think, and this is going to sound wild, but holding him to 22 points is a bit of a successful situation. You never say, hey, their stud scored 20 points, but that's a good thing. But the way that Marquette looked fatigued, the way that Purdue looked fatigued, you oftentimes rely upon your All-American, just like Purdue did with Zach Edey. So you kind of go to the old reliable, and for them is Kolek. He's an All-American. And towards the end, you could tell, and if you were watching on television like the rest of us, they would zoom in on Kolek's face, and he was like kind of dying. He was like a zombie out there because they were fatigued. 3 high-level games in 3 days in a jet lag situation is a very difficult thing to do, and so I got to give props to that. But also, I really want to kind of prop up Lance Jones for what he's done today and what he's done so far this season. It's a huge deal. Him hitting that shot at 3/4 court into halftime completely changed the momentum of the game. And also, it ended up being the difference in the game if you play that 3 points out, towards the end of the game. Just a throwaway shot ended up being essentially the difference in the game.
Yeah, 100%. So for me, I think some of the stats like that stand out. Obviously the shooting stands out, and we can look at the first half, second half splits at some point.
Sure.
Marquette was just really good getting downhill, getting shots in pick and roll, which will be one of the concerns.
Yes.
Edey, 28 and 15, just we cannot say it enough. Like Braggs, I think we've all been like, and Braggs has pointed out the most, I think, but we've all kind of been like, hey, Edey hasn't been like dominant, even though he's putting up like 25 and 13. And it sort of felt like that tonight, except for the second half, he was dominant. And it wasn't typical pure just post up, back to the basket, get to the hook. It was get on the offensive glass, get the ball, kind of wait people out, and then just make his move from there. So those are the big things that stand out. I think the second chance points kind of relates to that. Transition points for Marquette just because of all the turnovers. We can get. Or if you had something, go for it.
No, those turnovers are a big thing, but I wanted to make sure that we highlighted Edey a little bit. I watch every one of your guys' shows, and we're used to Edey kind of being the stud out there, right? But we have to keep in mind, and Billis, Jay Billis, I'm not a huge fan of ESPN. I'm not a huge fan of kind of how their deal was, and they definitely were. kind of propping up Marquette throughout this game and kind of making sure that Marquette was getting maybe a little extra respect this game. But Billis actually highlighted the fact that Edey's getting massacred like every play. Yep. That's not a verbatim quote from him, so I'm sorry, Billis. But the bottom line is Edey's getting killed, and he got hooked and held, and you could see that kind of fire in his eye turn, like the pilot light was lit. The very next possession, what was uncalled, was another hook and hold, and they didn't call it. And then the very next possession, Edey threw 3 men off of him and dunked the ball hard. There's something to be said about being that alpha out there on the floor, right? Like, you kind of just say, hey, yeah, all right, you're tough. I'm tougher. You know, let's get out there and let's just get it done. And he went cowboy, man, and he took care of it. And that's what you want to see from your leadership. Sometimes you just got to get after it. You got to take the game over. And that's exactly what Zach Edey did in that second half.
Yep, 100%. And he got, Lawyer and Smith, Jones, they all made some plays. But it was 100% Edey's show. And just even defensively, it wasn't his best night, but you still see sometimes that it's Marquette shooting floaters and not getting all the way to the rim. And it adds up. Now Marquette's they have a lot of skilled players and they knocked a lot of them down. But I know just scheme-wise, that's what Purdue wants. They want to just get to those floaters. The only one I don't know about is if Iguodaro, they might have wanted those to be a little more contested. But just a really good night overall from Zach. Like, I had to play 36 minutes, I think, on third game in 3 days, and it's because of how important he is to this team. So we'll go. I kind of want to hit on who do I want to? Do you have anybody you want to hit on for sure next? Players?
I think that Braden Smith was a quiet killer today. I think we need to talk about Braden Smith. Could you show his stat line if you got it handy?
Yes.
All right, so Braden Smith there, what was it? So we had 18 points, okay? That is the quietest 18 points you're ever going to see because Zach Edey's literally throwing the Marquette Golden Eagles around the floor in the paint. But if you remember last year, Braden Smith, this game against Marquette was kind of his coming out party, right? He kind of went hot in the second half. He hit a handful of threes. All of a sudden, we're like, oh, this he's something. And for whatever reason, he's getting to become that kind of that nasty streak in him. And by nasty, I mean like a good, he's just being like a wild man out there, but he's under control and he's steady. But look at his field goal percentage, 7 for 11, 18 points, 4 for 6 on three-pointers. He's just killing it. And that is exactly what you want from him because he's not turning the ball over. He had a couple. Let's be fair. He did turn the ball over. How many did he have there? Let's look.
2.
2? Okay, so a couple. Literally a couple for the guy who's handling the ball 90% of the time. Okay, that is for all how dominant a front court All-American player is. You need a guard to get him the ball, and that guard got him the ball. But he also scored 18 points in the process. Incredible game by Smith. I think he, if it wasn't for Edey's spectacular play, Smith's my guy.
Yeah, and that's totally fair. He was, especially in that first half, just so confident getting to his jumper. Everybody was, but it got to a couple pull-ups. Still, the one turnover for sure, he got ripped when Iguodaro hedged, and Iguodaro is also just a gifted defender, and you could see Iguodaro just time the swipe. So that's still a concern for me with him in general is what does he do against those hedges? But I think he kind of adjusted later and just drawing the big out and passing the ball and rotating it from there. But yeah, absolutely, Purdue needed everything from him. Purdue needed everything they got from everybody, but needed all 4 of those threes for sure. 5 assists to 2 turnovers, and just calms this team. Like, there's a reason that Braden played. Let's see, Braden has played in the Maui tournament. He played 33, 35, and 35 minutes. Like, and there's a reason. It's because when he's off the floor, this offense, it's just not as fluid. It doesn't mean that it is necessarily bad, but just not as fluid. And I think there's still concerns defensively. It just went for every guard on this team pretty much today. With me is just like, Purdue needs one adequate defender from Smith, Lawyer, or even like Colvin if he starts getting or Heidi if they start really getting into the rotation. Just one more good perimeter defender. Morin's obviously the guy, but I think Painter's not going to play him too many games more than 15 minutes just because of what there is offensively.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, Braden was a stud on offense today, 100%.
Sure. And here's the thing. There's circumstances where Braden Smith simply is going to struggle on defense. He is a generous 6'1", right? I think he's listed at 6'1" or 6 foot, whatever he is. Let's be honest with ourselves. That may be wearing an extra pair of socks and some basketball shoes. But the bottom line is he can play. But anytime you have a 6 foot guard and you're going to potentially be going up against a 6'5" guard or something like that is just as quick as you, all right, there's going to be a little bit of a disadvantage there. But he is getting the job done. If we're talking strictly defense, a tough pickup for Lawyer this week.
Yeah.
And his offense carried him back, and his steadiness and his trustworthiness here, that was a good thing. But he had trouble closing out on some shots. We saw a foul on a 3. We saw a couple of times where it was kind of getting blown by there as he's making a closeout on the 3-point line. It's kind of tough, but then again, we got to also hedge ourselves here. Marquette is really good.
Sure.
These are all American, all conference type players that they're playing against. There's a reason why they are the top 5, in the nation. Marquette is going to lose to Purdue today, and they did, and they're probably going to rise in the rankings, or at least stay the same. I would suspect, because they've earned it. A 3-point loss on a neutral court to the presumptive number 1 team in the nation after being down 15 and coming back and clawing back. That's still pretty impressive. The teams in front of them, Kansas lost. Purdue obviously won. Arizona's still kind of in that mix, right? So I could very well see Marquette staying in the top 5 here, and it's deserved. If anyone watched that game today and said, "Hey, Purdue played like dog do or whatever," and and they barely squeaked out a victory. They barely squeaked out a victory against one of the best teams in the nation. We cannot sell this short. Everybody struggles against elite talent. It happens. So, a missed box out here, a turnover there, a bad closeout here and there, whatever it is, that is going to happen because those players are just as good as any of the other players in the nation. So we gotta make sure that, we saw our little disappointment, but we have to make sure that our perspective is right here.
Yeah, I think that's the takeaway for this whole trip is there are a lot of things to improve on.
Yeah.
Purdue won despite those.
Exactly.
And that's going to be big. So, we talked about Braden and Fletch defensively. And I think the other issue, though, was obviously Lawyer was not good defensively.
It's tough.
You only got to watch a little bit to see that. But Colvin wasn't good defensively.
Mm-hmm.
Heidi wasn't good defensively. And so Painter was getting to a spot of, do you get the offensive Lawyer or do you try to get the defensive Morton? And he went with the offense, and it worked out. It worked out in the end. So we have, our guy Kraig Bowers doing over at media in Hawaii. He's enjoying, I think his flight either leaves tomorrow or today, his last day in Hawaii, but he's sending over some quotes. I'll just kind of throw them in throughout so we can comment on them. So this one's a quote from Shaka, paraphrased. He said, Fletcher and Braden have even more poise, but what makes them special is that even with the National Player of the Year on their team, they have so much ownership, quote unquote. They are Purdue and Purdue is them. And that's 100%. I've made the comment early in this year that Braden, without no question, is the second most important player on this team. If you wanted to make the argument that he's the most important, I don't hate it. Not the best, but the most important. I don't hate it. And I'm maybe leaning away from it a little more, but I still kind of believe that Lawyer's the third most important player on this team because if he gives you that offensive burst, it becomes a different team. Now it's Jones doesn't have to force, or now you have Braden and Lawyer, 2 legit perimeter options, take some pressure off Edey. And that's, I still just I think I still stand with that of Lawyer being the third most, although I would be more open to arguments on that one. Braden without a doubt. Second most important player on this team.
Right. I agree. And people need to also remember Shaka Smart is an excellent coach. He had his breakout years, and I'm from Northwest Indiana. I live up here close to Bragg's. I'm about a half hour away from him. I wasn't with Bragg's during this time frame, but I was at the Shaka Smart game that he kind of broke out. It was in the NCAA tournament. You know who their foe was? The Purdue Boilermakers. And it was an awful day to be a Purdue Boilermaker. But Shaka Smart is an excellent coach. coach, and he knows what he's looking at. And he's been at, I think, did he go Texas? He was at Texas for a while.
Yeah.
So he's been kind of bouncing around from different spots here and there. He knows the game. He's a smart individual, and he can see that Fletcher Lawyer and Braden Smith are owning. They want this. Everyone wants this, and it's good to get that respect from an opposing coach for sure.
Yeah, 100%. So before we kind of move on with the show, we had a comment. What is Ben's handle on Twitter? Shout out your stuff.
So yeah, my handle on Twitter is BRKOLO. So I am BRKolo on Twitter. I am oftentimes being rambunctious on the Twitter machine, and I will say this much: it is my Twitter's more of a work of performance art rather than being serious. So I kid around a lot on Twitter, but yeah, it's BRKOLO, Ben Kolodzinski on Twitter for sure.
Yeah, definitely go give him the follow. Like I said, we appreciate him coming on. Let's hit on who else do we want to hit on today? Probably, I mean, we've kind of hit on, I think we've hit on Lawyer.
Right.
One thing also with Lawyer is just like, it is the goofiest drives. Like they're never like pleasant to watch.
No,
but he kind of just gets them to go. He just kind of, and one thing I think he does do really well, and every once in a while it does bite him, and it just is like, okay, what's that? But obviously not the most athletic. He does a good job, I think, of initiating the first contact and then creating his space off of that. Because a lot of times you see, like, he doesn't get a foul, but he's like flipping something up and getting almost hammered to the ground. And I think it's just because he's the one initiating that contact, and he has to be able to get that space to get up the shot, because he's not going over people unless it's Nebraska last year and that one run play. But yeah, I think there's that, like, and sometimes it's ugly and it's turnovers, but there are times that it gets the job done and can be a counter to teams maybe selling out on his three.
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of that counter punch, right? So let's say he's shot a little bit lower here in the first part of the season. He's about 25-ish%. I don't know exactly off the top of my head, 32. But what was it?
32.
32. Okay, so a little bit higher than what I suspected, but we were kind of hoping he'd be more closer to 35 to 40. But what he's doing is he's taking the ball to the hole to counteract that, because he's respectable enough from three to be a tremendous threat. So what's interesting from him is, people say, okay, he's not the most athletic. Joe, you played basketball. I played a little bit kind of in AAU and middle school, early high school, whatever. The ability to get contact in air, know your spatial awareness, and keep that balance and finish is tough. It's a hard thing to do, and it's the type of thing that I'll tweet on Twitter. Hey, what is the circus is open, the circus shot, because you see somebody kind of flipping around, throw something up in the air, kissing off the glass, floating in, and like that was luck. But we've seen it enough from Lawyer taking to the hole this year and last year that he knows what he's doing. And he is effective doing that. He's a deceptively agile and capable driver to the basket.
Yeah, 100%. Like it's something I think's a little overlooked, but he does contribute. That's where I'm hoping like Colvin eventually gets. And obviously when Colvin does it, he's going to be so much more athletic that it's going to look way better. Like I'm excited to see him develop that kind of part of his game as well. Another guy I think we have to hit on is Gillis. He played 24 minutes, and we have, are you familiar with the rotation chart that we do?
I watch it every game. I watch your guys' show, and I see a lot of colors here, and you explain it every time, but I can never follow. I'm Polish after all, so I get lost often on complicated things like this.
So yeah, basically for anybody that, if you're new to the show or whatever, this is just, if the simplest way to look at this is if the box is colored, that means that they played for that minute on the floor. And so if you look at the last 8 minutes of the second half, minutes 12 through 20, they went with this, Painter went with the same 5, and it was Gillis at the 5 or at the 4. And I think just the combination of, somebody mentioned in the comments, some good hustle plays. It may not show him the box score. He's going to do that. Let's see. He had no turnovers today, because that was his thing yesterday, was just
the slippery hands. Yeah, you're kind of missing some catches here. But you know what? He's a good athlete. And we know he can catch. Sometimes you just kind of get in your own head with those little things. Just like, and I don't know if you're paying attention to the football. But Tyrone Tracy had a couple muffed fumbles from a kickoff and a punt, and he kind of got a little rattled, but he worked his way through it last week. So it's very similar with Mason Gillis. That guy's a competitor. He's a good athlete, and tighten up those hands, and he's doing fine.
Yep. One thing with him too, and I think I mentioned it yesterday, is he's continuing to be more willing to put the ball on the ground if he needs it.
Yes.
Like if he needs to take one dribble to get to a jumper or just kind of keep the defense in rotation. He did it a couple times again today. Even if the shot doesn't fall, I just like seeing that, because it's like that means he's confident and he's willing to go out and make plays.
A point to add on to that, to kind of dovetail off that, is he actually looked for a shot today. Oftentimes in the last, pretty much almost the entirety of the season, him shooting has been rather due to necessity other than, to create. And it was almost like it seemed like his confidence might have been off, but, because we've seen him light an arena up against Penn State. What did he score? 9 threes or something like that, something wild. Yeah. And the bottom line is that today he showed a little more aggression, a little more kind of, hey, I'll hit that pump fake. I'll take a dribble in, and I'll shoot that 17-footer. Now, he didn't hit a lot of the 17-footers, but when he hit that three, my son and I were watching the game. He's home for Thanksgiving, and we're watching the game, and he goes, "Oh, Gillis not only nailed that three, but he shot it with confidence." And we're like, "Yeah, this is good news."
Yeah, 100%. We have, a couple more players we can hit on and then get into some of the other stuff. But before we do that, I do want to give a shout out to our sponsor from BJ Rule. Purdue graduate and current Lafayette resident, BJ Rule has close to 15 years experience helping buyers, sellers, and real estate investors in Lafayette and surrounding areas. If you're looking to buy, sell, or invest in real estate, give BJ a call or text to set up an appointment to see how he can help you accomplish your goals. Your home will likely be the most expensive purchase of your life. Have the experts with Rainey & Company at Keller Williams on your side and let BJ help you navigate this process. Call or text at 317-345-4600. Appreciate BJ and Rainey & Company at Keller Williams for sponsoring this show. This kind of on this Maui tournaments it's been a fun Maui tournament. So
yes.
Bring up the stats one more time. I don't think we need to hit too much on the bench guys. We kind of hit Colvin and Heidi didn't play because of just Painter not trusting him defensively right now. Ethan's probably the one that's getting the most, I would say. You could see the reason why he would play more for that defense if they were to take out Lawyer. Did airball the three, but took it again in confidence, which is still important. But that's the thing. I think that's the thing with Morton, and I love Ethan Morton. There's not too many people that are more pro Ethan Morton than me, but it is just it does become truly that defenses just ignore him. And they just give him his space. And when you have Edey that needs to get the ball with some sort of space, he's just, it's the reason offensively that he's just not out there. Oh, that does remind me of one kind of criticism, whatever, on Edey. Observation is, I understand when he gets the ball, a lot of times, Purdue cuts through and he has to wait to kind of clear out. He wants to read the defense. I did think there was a few times in the second half that he missed, like just catching and going. Some of it might have been he figured there was less space than what there was, but especially down the stretch, I thought there was a couple times that Purdue had to force a tough three in the last 5-6 minutes. And maybe Edey, it would have been a little bit of a force from Edey, but I thought if he just went right away, he would have had at least a decent shot, and a decent shot from Edey is better than a bad shot from the perimeter, I think.
Sure. It very well could be. So here's the thing. Were you a post player when you played? You're pretty tall.
I was our center, but we played a 5-out. I only shot
5-out. Okay, that's fair enough. You're a big man that can shoot. Well, that's a valuable thing. So I was an undersized 3, so I was very strong. I was a football player. So when I was playing in the post, I was pretty skilled. The problem is you only can feel who's behind you. You can't actually see where your lane is. You're only feeling he's leaning back. He's seeing where the pressure's being applied to him, and then he's reacting to that. Oftentimes, you don't know what's behind you. So, like you said, Did he have an opportunity to maybe hit and go like Jawan Johnson used to back in the day and just kind of, sweep in and take care of it? He probably did. And the good part about that is Matt Painter's going to sit him down in the film room and go, hey, look, you had this opportunity here. You didn't know it. Let's see what we can coach you up on to make sure you feel it when it's there. And listen to how ridiculous that what we are saying is. This human being is just kicking everybody's ass out there on the floor, and we're going, well, he could have done this better. Listen to us assholes. This guy knows. But the bottom line is, you make an excellent point. The good thing about this Purdue team, and it's kind of been the crux of everything we brought into this part to this point, is this team has not played a good entire game of basketball yet this season, and they're going to be number 1 ranked team in the nation, and they are going to have the best resume in all of college basketball, and they still haven't put it all back together, or they haven't put it all together yet. That's incredible. Yeah. It's an embarrassment, and like a good embarrassment, an embarrassment of riches. And Matt Painter's doing a good job. We just need to make sure that we as fans don't get a little too overheated and overconfident here. That November national championships. We've been there the last 3 years. All right, let's see how this goes forward.
100%. Gotta just keep playing the games in front of you. There's gonna be a hiccup at some point. Sure. Like Purdue's not gonna be perfect on the year. Yep. But yeah, just it excites me that Purdue is winning, but there's still so many things to improve on. I kind of want to hit on the defense in general. We've kind of hit on the individual. Like, we already mentioned the guards and things like that. Right. And Marquette hit a bunch of tough floaters. There was just some miscommunications. When Marquette went on that run, it was 3 or 4 wide open buckets in a row, basically because nobody communicated. The only one where it was even somewhat was Gillis closed out on Cam Jones because Cam Jones is a shooter, forced him to drive, and nobody's there to help.
Nobody's there to help, right?
Yeah, a couple where it's just Jones and Lawyer got caught up on a switch or not, and just no communication, it felt like. Marquette, credit to them, Purdue runs probably the best action in the country. Marquette might run the second best action in the country. And if you want to say the best, sure. So they the Painter always says it, right? It's like you have your game plan, but you're playing another team. And Marquette did good stuff to put Purdue in those spots. But at the same time, if we're talking Final Four and March Madness, like that type of run, those are things that got to be tidied up. You can't afford to have those mental lapses of 4 minutes when it comes into those types of games.
You can't. And if Purdue wants to be this elite team, which they currently are by the definition of where they're at, these mental lapses and these sort of things is something that they're going to have to continue to tighten up. We are kind of spoiled in the fact that this team, this core, has been together for multiple years. So we can tell when they are not communicating, because we've been watching them for, I've been watching Purdue for almost 40 years now, but us as a fan base, we know this team like the back of our hand, which is why when opposing fan bases say, oh my God, all they do is get calls, see the free throw differential, and we're like, tell me you've never seen Purdue football or Purdue basketball without telling me you've never seen Purdue basketball, because that's been the story here for the last, better part of the last decade. But like you said, this team is too mature to allow communication lapses and these long stretches of negative opportunities. But also keep this in mind. Communication is actually a skill. And with any skill that you have, it diminishes when you're fatigued. And 3 nasty games on jet lag, and they've been eating poi and looking at girls in grass skirts hula dancing and whatever, enjoying their time. But that does wear on you. These have been 3 of the nastiest games that Purdue's going to play all year, and we played them in the span of 3 days.
Yeah,
that wears on you. Tennessee turned this into a battle royale. These young men are going to be iced up, and they're going to need to just kind of relax. They're going to need this Thanksgiving holiday and be able to carb up, get some protein, some turkey or whatever it is, and just be able to thank God that they can relax for a day or two, because they have gotten their asses kicked. And but the bottom line is, it's a wonderful world where you can get your ass kicked but still win. That's a wonderful situation to be in.
100%. I think. Another thing I kind of wanted to hit on defensively, and we'll go 2 days in a row with the board.
Oh, sweet! I was hoping we'd get the board out.
Yeah,
yes.
We can go to it. I thought, Marquette is very, very good offensively. They are very, very, very good offensively. Ken Pom has them this updated after today's game. They're the 5th best offense in the country. Purdue's 3 for offense and 6 in defense, by the way. But one thing that I think Purdue just hasn't done a lot this year, which is surprising me, is when teams run, it's called just an empty pick and roll. Does that show up? It does. Cool. And so what an empty pick and roll is say the ball's here, right? You have your defender, and then you're going to have a guy set a screen. You have this is Edey, this is Jones, Braden, whoever. Then it's going to be spaced out more or less like this, right? So Purdue generally will have a defender here. They provide some nail help, and then this guy's going to be here. So this is an empty pick and roll. If at any point you can't see this well, just let me know.
You're looking good. You're looking clear and handsome, so it's a good thing.
Let's go. So an empty pick and roll is because there's nobody in this corner at all, right? Usually when you run a pick and roll up, if say this guy has the ball, then this guy will be setting the screen here, and this guy will be kind of here. So there's somebody in that corner. Empty pick and roll, nobody's in this corner. And what a lot of teams do, and Purdue did a lot last year, and they just haven't done as much, is it's called icing the screen. And so what that is this defender is going to jump out here. He's going to be here. And so as this screen is set, this defender is forcing this ball handler to go this way. So now you have your big and your, especially unless it's like first maybe. Edey's always going to be in a drop right here, right? And so he's kind of helping the ball. Usually they'll flip the screen, so then guard has to fight over. There's my eraser. But what Purdue has been doing, which has been surprising, is they have not been icing that. They have not been forcing sideline, and they've just kind of been playing it straight up. And so when that happens, is you have your screen here, and he's ball handlers coming here. You have Edey and drop here. Is now this guy can either roll. You saw the pop a couple times from Gold, who didn't make any. And this guy, especially if it's like Kolek, now he's getting here. He has this entire court to work with, all of it. Whereas if when they ice, he gets here and it's kind of more contained. So I thought they got burned a little bit on that, just because Marquette also is good at hitting these types of shots, but just getting good looks in this paint and time. Then if you help, it's a kick out from Kolek or whatever. Just something that I'm going to keep watching going forward. So like I said, what they're not doing is icing the screen, which is forcing sideline when there's nobody in that strong side corner. If maybe next game at media, I'll ask Painter about it. But just something I noticed that I wanted to kind of call out. I thought it was interesting and something I'll monitor going forward.
Yeah, it's an interesting point that you make there, and so the terminology that you were using, I was unfamiliar with, but the concept I kind of picked up. So here's something that I've noticed is everyone has said it ad nauseum the last few years. The efficient shots in basketball are the dunks and the threes, right? Or open, threes that are in good shape. Those are the two things you want because it all works out. What you don't want is that 13 to 15 footer that is kind of floating around the basket, because it's the least efficient shot in all of basketball. It's worth only 2 points, and it's only a fraction better percentage than shooting a three. Okay. So you have a situation where Purdue is playing this the screen action head up or straight up, like you had mentioned, to kind of force them into that 15-foot jumper, and then they hit the snot out of those jumpers. They hit them all day, and it was kind of incredible. It's like, I'm sitting there, I'm like, yeah, shoot that. Yeah, oh, he made it again. Yeah, you shoot that. One more time, kept making it. So it's almost like the inverse of that. Maybe there are players that are learning the art of the mid-range jumper just to counteract the defenses are forcing them to take these mid-range jumpers. I mean, maybe this is like a reverse like conspiracy basketball theory that they're like, well, if they're going to give me that shot, I might as well be good at it. So, but today Marquette was really good at it, and I'm not sure if that's how Painter's just like he's going to live with them, or because those are tough shots. It wasn't like the Gonzaga game where they were taking Hail Mary shots at the end of the buzzer for the shot clock and having them fall. These were almost by, hey, you're going to give them to us, we'll take them. And for a while there, they got real hot, and it ended up being a problem.
Yeah, and Painter said, those are the shots they're going to live with.
Right.
In terms of the defensive coverage, I don't think I pointed out quite as well as I should have. Is the biggest thing with it is, yes, it's going to force some 15-foot jumpers, which is good. it more is just it allows the point guard to then have literally the entire court to work with instead of just a fraction. But the pick and roll coverage in general, like that's what Purdue wants to do. They're going to force 15-foot jumpers, 18-foot jumpers. You're going to have a couple people, you know, the Jalen Hood-Schifino game last year obviously is one that comes to mind. There's going to be guys that are able to do it, but it's still just like a bet of, hey, especially in college where obviously the players are skilled, but it's not the NBA. It's not the NBA level talent. You just aren't going to come across that many guys that consistent, like where they hit that jumper so much that it like really puts fear into you. So, but yeah, the defense has been, I think, solid for the most part. I think they still have another level they can get into. So sorry, my throat's been so dry these past few days, and I'm not trying to cough into the mic.
'Tis the season for dry weather for sure.
Yeah,
and then
true. It's especially this past few days, it's just gotten to me. So yeah, let's see. We've hit on pretty much every player. You know, I think the only one we probably haven't is, I guess we haven't talked about TKR in first.
Right.
Obviously, Gillis played more of the minutes at the 4 today. I'll pull up the rotation again. You see TKR played 5 in the first and 6 in the second half. I thought that first stint was probably one of his best stints of the year. He knocks down a 3. He gets a post up to go. He had a board. He had 2 assists. Defense just wasn't. It just wasn't the matchup for him defensively.
That's right.
Marquette was so much on the perimeter and so fast. Like I just think that's probably the biggest reason why he didn't get minutes. First, I think first is probably he was more of just Painter was rolling with Gillis and less of first. Unless I could be totally missing stuff, and you correct me if I'm wrong. Like I don't think he had a bad game. He had a couple turnovers, so that could be it too. I guess nothing really stands out to first, and that might be just the reason why also that Gillis got those minutes.
Well, look at the matchup. You know, don't get me wrong. First is a tremendous player. You know, he's 6'9", 6'10", or is he 6'11"? However tall he is, he's awfully tall. He's a good athlete, and he's able to kind of play a little bit of an inside-out type scenario. Not quite as inside as TKR, not quite as outside as you know a true stretch 4. The thing is, though, this Marquette team is a bunch of 6'7" guys, and one 6'9" guy is their center. So his ability and the matchups really doesn't necessarily work. And the same with Trey Kaufman-Renn. We've noticed the last few games when Trey Kaufman-Renn is the featured 5 or a featured situation 4, he goes to work and he scores. It's similar circumstance to here with first. When he's more of a stretch 4, it works out for him. But the matchup on defense against this explosive Marquette offense, it wasn't really the right fit for either of those individuals, but it was the right fit for Mason Gillis.
Yeah, no, that's totally fair. And the spacing on offense is a big thing too with, hey, when Edey's got to go and like you want to provide him as much spacing as possible. And that could be a reason also why Morton didn't get those minutes down the stretch either, of just Painter was trying. You had a good thing going with Edey. And just trying to feed him the ball. And with that, you want to provide as much space as possible with that. If everybody, we have about 200 people live right now. We appreciate everybody tuning in. If you, could just give us a like. If you aren't subscribed on YouTube, do that. If you're listening after on audio, 5-star reviews, things like that. Just help us out in general. This is our 3rd show in 3 days. Going to have them, after every game, have some interviews throughout the year. So if you are enjoying, please like and subscribe. Just helps us a lot. Michael Davis brings up who won the signed Edey jersey. We're putting out a tweet tomorrow about who won that. I know we said a couple days ago. It hasn't happened, but we are putting out the tweet for sure tomorrow about who won. Be on the lookout for that.
The Boilers and the Stands crew have been pretty busy the last couple days, so they'll get that out there to you guys.
Yeah, 100% will. We promise we will. So I know we're kind of getting closer to the end probably of the show. Is there anything in general in terms of Maui, in terms of like more of the individual games that you kind of want to just throw out there?
It kind of the Boilers and the Stands folks. So I'm a quote unquote rival media member, right? Even though I've been friends with these guys for a bit, the one of the things is the Boilers in the stands, they gas the team up. They brag on the team. They get them. We're fired up. Braggs is a ball of frenetic energy. He's like Chris Farley and Tommy Boy. He's ready to go. The thing is that we should probably be pretty proud of this team right now. There is no reason not to be excited. There's reasons to be cautiously optimistic, but there's no reason not to be like, oh yeah, we got some shit moving in the right direction. So whenever you talk to some of these media folks, so I get in my stuff with ISC Purdue, I kind of get a lot of the you're 100% positive. You're always trying to you try spinning a positive story out of a 3-8 football season. And getting me to do that. But the reason we do this is because we are fans of the team, right? And just because I'm also a media guy, it doesn't mean that I can't really kind of be a little bit gassed up. So I think it's important to realize that we can be proud of this team, and we really should be. If anyone here thought, yeah, Purdue's just going to storm their way right through the Maui Invitational with that lineup and win it, there had to be some doubt in your mind, at least a little bit. I thought they had a good shot as anybody to win this tournament, but we have the right here as fans here to be like, oh yeah, we accomplished something today. Is it our main goal? Was our goal for this season we're going to win the Maui Invitational? No. No. Is our goal this year we're going to win the Big Ten championship? I mean, yeah, it's a goal every year to do that. To win the Big Ten tournament champion, yeah, that's a goal every year, right? There's obviously bigger prizes at the end of this season that we're kind of hunting for. But until then, you can still pat this team, Matt Painter, these players, and all the fans that went out to Maui and spent hundreds of millions of thousands of dollars to go out there to Hawaii. But they showed out for the team. Be proud. At least for a few days. Don't let it get to your head. Don't get cocky on Twitter. Don't start, putting GIFs in the opponent's official Twitter account for basketball. No need for that sort of stuff. Just put it this way. We should be proud. Enjoy this. This is an important situation, but also there's room to grow, and there's plenty more of potential successes and outcomes in the future.
Yeah, I'm going to just reiterate what I kind of started with, and I think we mentioned, and you just kind of hit on, is like this team won 3 really tough games against really good opponents, and there's just so much room for improvement. Like Purdue is going to be ranked number 1 in the AP poll. They're number 1 in KenPom. Like if they're not number 1 in the country by most power rankings, they're number 2. And there's a whole nother level this team really can get to. Like, as I think some of the Colvin and Heidi have shown spurts as they start getting more and more comfortable and it becomes more consistent. It is kind of the rotation of first TKR Gillis gets more figured out and TKR gets more comfortable both as the 4 and maybe when he's in with first. They're defensively, like getting just better defensively against pick and roll in general. Like Edey can only do so much. Got to have some guys on the perimeter. Like there's just so many things. Also just the up and down 3-point shooting. I mean, Purdue is the 18th best 3-point shooting team in the country right now at 40.8%. It doesn't feel like it. I'm going to be honest.
It doesn't.
It does not at all. But they've gone 47%, 26, 23, 47, 35, 55. Or reverse that order, but the 55 is the Sanford game. But yeah, like it's there's a lot of things to improve, and this team's still very, very good. Like that is huge. So I guess we're like I said, we're kind of getting near the end of the show.
Sure.
We've hit on the Maui tournament. I'm curious, aside from Purdue, there's things to improve. Is there anything specifically that you're like, oh, that kind of interests me, like going forward with this team?
To be honest with you, I want to see more development on the defensive end. We kind of know where they're at on offense. Like you just said, they're kind of a mercurial 3-point shooting team. I'd like to see a steady 35% as opposed to a 22% and then a 50%, and kind of bounce around. But that's okay. We kind of know what's going on there. But we've said from the very beginning, one of the biggest issues with this team is athletic ability, at least from compared to last year, the athletic ability and the how that's going to meld and how does Purdue get more athletic, get more stronger, get faster, jump higher, all that stuff. So we have some players on our team. We've got the Miles Colvins. We've got the Camden Heidies. These are really good athletes, but they're not quite there on defense yet. Mm-hmm. And the old adage is, if you are a top 20 offense and a top 20 defense, you're more than likely going to the Final Four. That's how the numbers have jived for the last 10 years. Our Dave Kovich at ISC, he's a big numbers guy. He knows all about this stuff, and he's kind of drilled it into our head. Is if you are good at those two things in the top 20, you're in really good shape statistically to go there. That's my goal, and I think that they're going to be there on offense. We got to make sure they get there on defense.
Yeah, and Ken Pom has them number 3 offense, number 6 defense. Obviously, with only 6 games, it does factor last year's in a decent bit. They were number 24. But yeah, no, I think there's a lot improved defensively. We're also Edey was dominant in the second half. Mm-hmm. We haven't seen an Edey 40-minute game, I don't think yet. Right. That's going to come at some point. Also, just guys getting more used to playing off of Edey and knocking down shots. Like I said, Jones getting more integrated both offensively and defensively. Jones is elite as an on-ball defender right now.
Yes, he is. He's really, a menace. Really yeah, he's 100%. A menace. I love it.
100%. But there's just, in terms of between him and the guards within the scheme of, hey, are we switching that? Hey, what's kind of just some of the coverages? He's only played 6 games for Purdue. That's going to come. But yeah, it's gonna be fun. They got Texas Southern next week, and then it's Northwestern and Iowa Friday, Monday, Big Ten games. So that at Northwestern game is going to be the one that opens up the Big Ten season. Mm-hmm. Last year, Purdue goes to Northwestern. They lose by 4 or 6 or whatever it was.
I'm not a big fan of that game.
Yeah, nobody really is on the Purdue side with the physicality of that game. Northwestern has been solid this year. Sure. They're 4-1. They've beat Dayton, but they haven't been great, I don't think. But what they're going to do is they're going to have their scheme. They're going to I expect from their side like last year. We'll see what the refs do and what gets called or not, but it's going to be physical.
If their coach can grab one of our players while he's trying to make a cut, we'll see how all of that works out.
Yeah, they're going to be physical. They're going to double team Edey on the catch in the post. Mm-hmm. They play a small ball 4 in Brooks Braunerheiser, who's been really good. He's averaging a double-double.
He's good.
But can Purdue just dominate the glass with their size? Those are going to be some of the things I'm looking for there. Not overlooking Texas Southern. Obviously, got to take care of business there as well. But yeah, we appreciate you coming on, kind of filling in.
Of course, thank you.
Yeah, not sure. We'll definitely get you back on at some point. Great. Not sure exactly that'll be, but
appreciate that.
Do you have thoughts on the Big Ten season in general as we start wrapping up?
Yeah. To be honest with you, I'm not saying this because I have been a 4th generation Purdue student and I am a diehard one of these types. If you're not looking at the landscape of the Big Ten right now and not thinking that Purdue should be the favorite with the way some of these teams have struggled, you're fooling yourselves. And the only thing that's going to stop Purdue is Purdue right now. Obviously, let's not talk into weird ether things, injuries and yada. Let's not bring that up. The only thing that's stopping Purdue right now is Purdue, because every single team other than the Boilermakers right now in the Big Ten has shown major issues, major gashes in that armor. So, but that's not to say that over a 20-game Big Ten season that things you can wear down. Familiarity breeds contempt, right? So these people know Purdue. The whistle is a little bit different in the Big Ten, which is one of my theories as to why Big Ten teams don't win national titles in basketball. But also this team is designed to succeed in the Big Ten. So hopefully that continues this year.
Yep, 100%. And it's going to be theirs to lose. It's not the ultimate goal for this team, but at the same time, you got to set yourself up for March, and winning a Big Ten championship can do that. Like you said, every Big Ten team in some facet has kind of been like, hey, what's going on there? You could we'll see how many bids this league gets as of right now. And Rob White brings up that we still have Purdue still has Ken Pom number 4 and 5 teams on neutral courts in Alabama and Arizona back-to-back Saturdays.
Excellent point, Rob.
Has 2 more really good non-conference games with it.
Absolutely. Really good point, Rob. That's excellent. So, this is incredible, the situation that Purdue has done. Already the success that they've had in this preseason. Or this pre-conference season, but Rob's point is absolutely real. If you remember last year, Alabama was considered the best team in the nation for a big chunk of the year. Arizona right now, they have a legit claim to probably the number 2 spot in the nation. So in Indianapolis, in a couple of weeks, it very well could be number 1 versus number 2 in was it Gainbridge Fieldhouse or Market Square Arena or whatever it's called nowadays. That's an excellent point, Rob.
Yeah, 100%. We'll find out. I just pulled up Arizona's schedule. They beat Duke by 5 at Duke. The other 4 games that they've won were bye games, but their schedule, they go neutral against Michigan State, home against Colgate, home against Wisconsin, basically in a road game at Purdue, and then they play Alabama. So that's we're gonna find out what Arizona is really about in these next 5 games. Alabama and Arizona are both playing a lot of Big Ten teams. Alabama plays Ohio State, then Clemson, Arkansas State, Purdue, Creighton, and then they play Arizona. So these are 2 teams that Purdue's going to be kind of in the midst of their tough stretches of the season. I don't know if that'll factor in at all either. But to kind of recap and just finish this off overall is, hey, Purdue won Maui. They just
they did.
The top 15 teams or whatever. 3 of the top 10 teams per KenPom or 11 teams per KenPom right now. This is a fun time. Like, I know there's March is always going to be in the back of Purdue fans' minds, and rightfully so. But at the same time, they just won what a lot of people are saying is the toughest November tournament basically in history. It is just the most stacked tournament ever. Purdue was the team, 3 straight games against really, really good teams, and they get the win in 3 different ways, and that's huge.
Yeah, it's huge. You can't ask for anything more. Purdue seems to be making all the right types of history and some of the wrong types of history. Hopefully that they continue to make some of the right types of history going forward in this season, because they, like you said, they just won probably the greatest off-conference season tournament in the history of these tournaments, and it's insane, and they did it. Don't get me wrong, there was some struggles there, and I had to pace around my living room and piss my wife off because I'm screaming at the television and the dog's getting scared. But there were some tense moments. But the bottom line is this: they did it. And they didn't do it necessarily easily, but they did it easier than a lot of people thought they would have too. So very, very impressive week for the Boilers.
100%. Gonna bring it back really quick to the Lance Jones 3/4 court heave.
yes.
Purdue does win by 3. Also, this brings me to a side note before I get to my main point. Is if I'm a Marquette fan, I might be saying right now, hey, we probably win that game more often than Purdue. It was back and forth. I think there's an argument either way. It was a close game that deserved to come down to the end. But our guy Kraig Bowers at Postgame Media, by the way, if you want to, a lot of tweets and clips is going to be on our Twitter at Boilers and Stands. Definitely go check that out. All the coverage that Kraig has done this week in Hawaii. Obviously, he's enjoyed his time in Hawaii, but has done a lot of good work that we do really appreciate. He asked Painter about the Jones 3/4 heave. For anybody that needs the background is, in a couple of post games ago, Painter said that he wished Jones wouldn't shoot from Crawfordsville, right?
Yes.
And Painter said that if that one, if his normal threes were from Crawfordsville, then either this one was from the region or South Bend. He wasn't quite sure directionally which one it would have been, but hey, it ends up being a huge 3.
Yep. From my neck of the woods up here in the region. Yeah, it was incredible. So, my son and I were, all right, going to the half up, 8 points. All right, cool, whatever. And then I'm like, it's God's honest truth. And I'll put it. I got a Bible in the bookshelf behind me. I'll put my hand on it and say this. I said, what is it? 2.5 seconds. You got 2 dribbles and a shot. Give it to Lance Jones. Let him cook. And then all of a sudden, dribble, shot, and we're like, no way. No way. And of course it gets buried, and we piss the dog off because we start screaming, and my wife's rolling her eyes at us again and all that stuff. But very cool moment, very cool play. It's something that we're going to remember forever. Shots like that don't happen that frequently, so keep that in mind. It's a pretty rare one.
I was thinking that's probably the longest shot I've ever seen live.
Yeah.
I've seen some like half quarters and stuff for sure, but like I don't remember that was like an 80% of the court almost. Like that was a full 3/4.
Yeah.
I think that's the longest shot I've ever. And he chucked that thing up in the air.
Yeah.
That wasn't like a bank in. It was that was coming straight down in the rim.
Well, and you saw the kind of touch he had on it because it actually rolled around the rim a couple times and went in. So he had a little bit of English on that. So I got to give him credit. He meant to do that.
Yeah, he must have. He definitely called that. So we've hit on everything now. Like I said, Kraig's going to have a bunch of the post-game stuff over on our Twitter. Some of the stuff maybe makes its way to YouTube, which if you are watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe. If you are listening on audio after, we are on Apple, Google, and Spotify podcasts. Definitely check us out there. Thanksgiving's coming up. You got car rides, things like that. Kill an hour with us talking some Purdue hoops. So appreciate, Ben, you coming on again. Once again, just let everybody know where they can find you and on Twitter and all that stuff.
So I appreciate it. Check me out for Twitter at brcolo. That's at brkolo. I write weekly articles at ISC Purdue, Indiana Sports Coverage Purdue. Their Twitter handle is at ISC_PU. So check them out. And if you're in Northwest Indiana, check me out at Lakeshore Public Media, 89.1 FM. I do a seasonal football show, radio show, and a seasonal television show for them up there. And, all of that while still getting all my Purdue fix in and raising a family and petting my dog every night. So I appreciate all of this, and thank you for letting me on, Joe. And thanks, Spraggs, and thanks, Kraig. All of you guys are my buddies. I haven't seen you guys in a few months yet, but just thanks for having me on. And if you ever need me again, I will be more than happy to come back.
Yeah, definitely appreciate it. Real quick, because there was a good comment. Rob White said, "Lost in all this, how big of a tip-in Edey has with a minute left." We don't need to talk about it because we're wrapping up. But that was just another reason why Edey was so good and why it's so important to get a shot on the rim. You can follow me on Twitter at JoeJacksonCBB. We'll have the film thread out tomorrow talking about this game. Could not get to the one from Tennessee, but also who really wanted to rewatch that game. So, but definitely tomorrow morning we'll have the Purdue Marquette thread out as you go about Thanksgiving. I hope everybody safe travels and enjoy your Thanksgiving. I appreciate everybody tuning in through the Maui tournament. Have coverage on Twitter at Boilers in Stands. We appreciate everybody tuning in. We will see you Tuesday post-game show against Texas Southern.